Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Varavajikacharya Ashtarthartha Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Varavajikacharya Ashtarthartha Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Is it a special day? Is it your birthday or something? Is it a special day today? No? You just, huh?
Family's okay.
Okay, good. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 12th day of June, 2024, in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are studying the 9th chapter, the most confidential knowledge. And we're still in text number 2 and dealing with this long purport here. So we'll chant the verse again. Yeah, page 375. I got 375. Yeah, still 2. It's a long purport and we haven't been able to get through the whole thing.
Oh, you just went to the mark page?
You're all set. Yeah, help him find the page. We did, because it's Taco Tuesday. No, I think we should have Waffle Wednesday also. No, Waffle Wednesday. Think of a Monday. We couldn't, yeah, Monday. What is it?
Mango Monday?
It's not, you have to, something. All right, let's continue now. Page 375, text 2. Raja Vidya, Rajaguhyam, Raja Vidya Rajaguhyam, Pavitram, Idam Uttamam, Pavitram Idam Uttamam. Okay. Pratyakshaavagamam, Dharmyam, Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam, su-sukham, kartum, avyayam, su-sukham kartum avyayam, Radhavidya Radhaguhyam, Pavitram idamuttamam, Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam, su-sukham kartum avyayam, Radhavidya Radhaguhyam, Pavitram idamuttamam, Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam, su-sukham kartum avyayam, Radhavidya Radhaguhyam, Pavitram idamuttamam, Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam, Dharmyam, su-sukham kartum avyayam. Go ahead. Rajavidya Rajaguhyam, Pavitram idam uttamam, Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam, su-sukham kartum avyayam. Not yet. Okay. Since it's just us here and our guests online, I'm going to. I don't know how you learn to read English. You know, my understanding is that at a certain point there was a movement in the schools, because you're quite a bit younger than I am, not to use the sounded out principle, but that you recognize the whole word. Like if you see a word directional, you know, it's not like directional, but you look, okay, there's a word, directional. That doesn't work with Sanskrit. You have to be able to read every syllable. You see, if you try to read the whole word, it's just not going to work. Pratyakshaavagamam. You know, I have so many years experience plus chanting this verse, which is very famous. So it's not, you know, Pratyakshaavagamam. So I don't have to think about it even. But I can understand if it's the first time you're seeing that long word. What do I do? So it's very scientific though. Pratyakshaavagamam. In Sanskrit, it doesn't vary. It's not like, oh, you know, in English, depending on the word, the same combination of letters can sound completely different, you know. Like Prabhupada even complained about English, you know, yeah. The word but and put. It should be the but and put. You know, we know that's a word, but with 2 T's, right? Or but and put, but not but and put, you know what I mean? Where did that come from, right? But Sanskrit is very scientific. It's always the same. It's pratyakshaavagamam. It all goes by syllables. And then dharmyam. No letter is silent, you know. Dharmyam. Su-sukham. The KH is different than just a regular K. If there was no H, it would be su-sukham. But here it's su-sukham. There's a little aspiration there, you see. Kartum avyayam, avyayam. Su-sukham kartum avyayam. So, since you know, you'll know where we end tonight. So you can, if you're considering, I know he'll be in the class. You may not be able to make it. Well, tomorrow is of course the other. But we will be. You'll know the verse we're going to do next time you attend class. You can follow it online or whatever. So you can rehearse at home. And I have a recording of the whole Bhagavad Gita. I can give you. I have several. One is just the verses and what we just read and the translation, and verse and translation. The other is the verse, translation, and purport, which I can also give you. You just write to me, Dravida 108, and I'll send you that link, and so you can rehearse, and gradually it'll just roll right off your tongue. You'll see. All right, moving along. We read these synonyms already. The translation: this knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the... Oh, wait a minute. Let me do that again. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. And we are still in the middle of page 376. Do you know exactly where we are on the purport? I thought, according to this...
You're past that.
We're past that, yes. So... I'm not sure where we are. He doesn't know either. 377. Why not? I read that verse, I think. Abharab the Palam Kvartman, that rings a bell. So let's the middle of page 377. It is said that the execution of devotional service is so perfect that one can perceive the results directly. Now this is right from the verse. The words pratyaksha avagamam. Pratyaksha means directly. You see, avagamam means experienced. Understood directly. So he's going systematically through the verse. It is said that one can perceive the results directly. This direct result is actually perceived, and we have practical experience that any person who is chanting the whole names of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, in course of chanting without offenses, feels some transcendental pleasure and very quickly becomes purified of all material contamination. This is actually seen. Furthermore, if one engages not only in hearing but in trying to broadcast the message of devotional activities as well, or if he engages himself in helping the missionary activities of Krishna consciousness, he gradually feels spiritual progress. This advancement in spiritual life does not depend on any kind of previous education or qualification. The method itself is so pure that by simply engaging in it, one becomes pure. In the Vedanta Sutra 3.2.26, this is also described in the following words. Prakashas cha karman yabhyasat. Devotional service is so potent that simply by engaging in the activities of devotional service, one becomes enlightened without a doubt. Close quote. A practical example of this can be seen in the previous life of Narada. Okay, time out while I put on this little shawl here. This one. It's finally gotten a little warmer, but not quite that warm. We're going to make it maybe by summer. You think it'll get up to 70? Maybe. We should be thankful for the coolness. Say again? Yes, the sun came out, Huh? No, not yet. Today it came out. But just a little east of us, it can be over 100 in Arizona. So I think we're doing okay, actually. Continuing on. A practical example of this can be seen in the previous life of Narada, who in that life happened to be the son of a maidservant. He had no education, nor was he born into a high family. But when his mother was engaged in serving great devotees, Narada also became engaged, and sometimes in the absence of his mother, he would serve the great devotees himself. Narada personally says, Uttishta lepan anumodito vijay, sakrit smabunje, and tadapasta kilbishaha. Evam pravrittasya vishuddha chetasas, tad dharma evatma ruchi Prajayate. In this verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.25, Narada describes his previous life to his disciple Vyasadeva. He says that while engaged as a boy servant for those purified devotees during the 4 months of their stay, he was intimately associating with them. Sometimes those sages left remnants of food on their dishes, and the boy who would wash their dishes wanted to taste the remnants, so he asked the great devotees for their permission. And when they gave it, Narada ate those remnants and consequently became freed from all sinful reactions. As he went on eating, he gradually became as pure-hearted as the sages. The great devotees relished the taste of unceasing devotional service to the Lord by hearing and chanting, and Narada gradually developed the same taste. Narada says further, Tatranvaham Krishna Kata Pagayatam Anugrahena Shrinuvan Manohara Tashadayame Nupadam Vishinvata Priyashavasyangamamabhavan Ruchihi. By associating with the sages, Narada got the taste for hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, and he developed a great desire for devotional service. Therefore, as described in the Vedanta Sutra, Prakashas cha karman yabhyasat. If one is engaged simply in the acts of devotional service, everything is revealed to him automatically and he can understand. This is called pratyaksha, or directly perceived. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this is one of the most salient factors of the Krishna consciousness process, is that, first of all, if you read the books and you have some faith, you can see that this is really leading to a destination that can't be excelled. I mean, what can be more attractive as a destination to strive for than eternal life of bliss and knowledge with no tinge of unhappiness or danger or anything like that that we have in the material world. In other words, what's promised is just the ultimate goal. And then, of course, the key factor is that you have enough faith in it to try it, to try the process and to continue, not to say, what a pipe dream that is, I mean, we know from living in this world, there's no place like that, right? I mean, yeah, that's the fallacy, that we're taking our own material perceptions, which are so imperfect, and making conclusions on them, and then we fail to get a tinge of faith. Hare Krishna, welcome. So the schedule is, the darshan will be at 8:15, and between now and then we'll have class. You're welcome to join us. You can sit on the benches if you like, and there's the books. We're on page 378 now. So this verse is encouraging us. Raja Vidya, Raja Guyam. It says the knowledge I'm teaching you now, Arjun, is the king of all education. This is the culmination of the book. Now, Prabhupada explains the middle 6 chapters. I don't know if you recall that we read that in a purport, that the Bhagavatam has 18 chapters. So there's first 6, middle 6, and last 6. The middle 6 chapters are the essence of the book. And what's the culmination of those 6 chapters? Chapter 12, Bhakti Yoga. It's a short chapter, the essence of the essence. But this is the 9th chapter is, of course, part of that middle 6, and here he's declaring at the very beginning, this second verse, that this is the king of all education, king of all knowledge I'm teaching you now. Very confidential. In other words, secret. Now this means, one of the things it means is that you can't just figure it out yourself. It's revealed knowledge, and it needs to come from a higher source and be enlightened. Because otherwise, if you're just relying on your imperfect mind and senses to figure it out, then you get what we have out here. So many developments. You get AI, which is a miracle, but it's a danger, right? Wasn't there a movie about that where they took over? There's a real danger that AI will and then of course the thing is they apply it to the military, and the AI, well, it doesn't care. There's no heart there. There's no person there. Yeah, looks like the criteria are right. We better start throwing those bombs. No, wait. No, we're in charge. Anyway, it's madness. It's not I'm not saying. I keep thinking of this one verse from Rishabdev. I like to quote it, and it's part of a 3-verse lesson, a complete lesson. You find these in the Bhagavatam, you find them in the Bhagavad Gita. There's something I remember. It's been years already. The teachings of Lord Kapila in the 3rd canto. He's actually teaching his mother Devahuti, right? And her husband is gone, taking sannyas, and so she surrenders to him, and he starts teaching her. And near the beginning of the teachings, he has these 8 verses about the importance of association with sadhus, sadhu sangha. It's even become an English word, satsang, right? I'm sure you'll find it in the latest dictionary. So, in those 8 verses, there's one verse that is the most quoted of the verses. There's 2 very important ones. Who was the sadhu? The first verse is prasangam ajaram pasham atmana kavayovidu. Saesha sadhu shukato moksha dvaram aparvatam. Now, in Sanskrit, every word counts. Just like Vedanta Sutra, every syllable counts. It's so concise, it needs unpacking. But in all these verses of Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam or any of them, every word is significant. So the first one is prasangam. Now, the pra is a prefix that's added to, in prakrishta rupena. Prabhupada would actually give a little phrase. It intensifies. If there's sangha, prasanga means more intense, more meaningful, you see. So here, prasanga means strong attachment. Strong attachment. Ajaram pasham atmana kavayovidu. So here it's material attachment that are just like very strong knots that bind the heart to the material world. Ajaram pasha means pasha means a rope that you can't cut, that's very tightly knotted. Atmana kavayovidu. The kavis, the wise persons, know that same attachment for material sense gratification that we have has to be redirected toward the sadhus. You see? And what's the result? Moksha dvaram aparvatam. It opens up the door to liberation. So right away there's an attraction here. Well, we want liberation. So what do we do? So then the next question, well, who's the sadhu? All right, I agree. Now where do I find the sadhu? Okay, here's who you look for. Tatikshava, karunika, suridak, sarvadehinam, ajata shatavak, shanda, saravak, sarabhushanam. These are different qualities of the sadhu. Now interestingly, in this whole list, which I'll give you in a minute, it doesn't mention devotional service, but that's not a defect because the next verse describes that. So the first thing is of the sadhu, very tolerant. Like Lord Chaitanya famously said, we have to be more tolerant than a tree. If you want to chant the holy name constantly, and you're assured of going back to Godhead, because at every moment, whenever death comes, I'm ready. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare, because you're chanting constantly. So it's a great thing to be able to do that. It's not easy. So here's the qualifications or prerequisites. Tatikshava, you have to be. This is the qualification of the sadhu. Tatikshava means tolerant. And karunika means very compassionate. So you have to be. If you're going to be compassionate to others and give them Krishna consciousness, just like our book distributors or Srila Prabhupada himself showed, then you have to be able to tolerate various dangers that come, so much opposition, so much apathy, difficulties in the path. And Prabhupada, who would Prabhupada give as a perfect example? Jesus Christ. He would say he did that. He sacrificed he endangered his life and ultimately gave his life for preaching God consciousness. So, Titikshava Karunika, they go together, merciful and tolerant. And Suridak Sarvadehinam, the best friend of every living entity. Not just human beings, but not hurting a soul if it's at all possible to avoid it. Even the bugs you don't kill indiscriminately if there's no reason. Suridak Sarvadehinam, Ajata Shatrava, having no enemy. You don't feel enmity toward others. There's so much anger and hatred out there. It's frightening. because we're still in the nuclear age, But that's the sign of the Kali Yuga. That's what Kali means. It means quarrel and dissension. So just the opposite, the sadhus. Suridak Sarva, Jata Shatrabhak, and then because of all these qualities, Shanta, actually peaceful at heart. You see? Shanta, Sadhavak Sadhabhushana, these are the ornaments of a sadhu. Now, how do you get those ornaments? That's the next verse. Kapila Deva is speaking in the revealing himself to be an incarnation of Krishna. He's actually an incarnation. So therefore he says, Maya ananyena bhavena bhaktim kurvanti yedvidham matkate chakta karmanas chakta swajana bandhava. He says, Maya ananyeva, these qualities are manifest in someone who is undeviatingly devoted to me, devotional service. This ahoitukiya pradayata means selfless service without any business, yes, I'll serve you, pray to you for some material thing. No. And unbroken. So that's pure devotion service. My ananyena bhavena bhaktim kurvanti yedvidham, with great determination. And then a symptom is matkote tyakta karmanas, for my sake, giving up any activity that is not devotional service. And even if it's an impediment, relationships with one's near and dear ones. And that's why we have the sannyas role and so forth, That may happen if it's not feasible to practice, in association of your old friends. So, then he goes on, Kurvanti Hedvidham, and then, let's see, how's the next one go? I forget the next one, but the essential verse in all of these 8 is that he says, Satam pasangan mama virya sambido bhavanti ritkana rasayana katata joshanarasu abhavarga vartmani shadharati bhakti anukramishati. So what this says is, in the association of devotees, satam prasangan, the same word as the beginning, see that prasangan. But here it's strong association attached to the sadhus, very, very auspicious. What are you going to hear in that sangha, Mama virya samvido, glorification of my glorious activities. Kapila Deva is teaching as an incarnation of Krishna. Mama virya samvido, bhavanti ritkarna rasayana kata, which acts like a life-giving elixir coming through the ears. Rasayana. Satam prasang mama virya, bhavanti ritkarna, for the ear and for the heart. There's great joyful vibrations. Rasayana kata is talk. And what's the result? Tajoshanad, by practicing that. This is what we're doing here. I'm the closest we have to a sadhu. Sorry, I'm not perfect, but what's really valuable about the class, we read Prabhupada's, as long as we can nicely read Prabhupada's purports and Krishna's words. So, but we're hearing, Krishna's glories. So the result is Tajoshanad, employing this easiest kind of yoga. You don't have to go to the Himalayas, you don't have to sit like this, you don't have to do this, no breathing. You just come, enjoy, have some prasad, sing a little bit, and listen. So, Tajoshan, Ashu Apavarga Vartmani. This is the path of liberation. Apavarga, Prabhupada always explained this word. It's very interesting. In Sanskrit, if you investigate the back of the book, it has to be the unabridged like we have, and the hardback, there's a Sanskrit pronunciation guide. And there's different groups of letters. Anyone who's studied a little Sanskrit knows. There's different, I forget what they call them, but this is the pa-vargas. Vargas means letters. The letters that begin with, the group that begins with the letter pa, P-A, you see? So it's pa and pa. See, there's the aspirated P also. The regular P, pa, and then the pa. Pa, ba, and ba, and ma. There's 5 of them. So each of them stands for another unpleasant aspect of being in the material world. So pa means, in ordinary, parishrama. You have to work very hard in order to just live in this world, just to get the necessities of life. So you're working. Parishrama. So much so that sometimes penila, foam comes from the mouth. This is like a horse. And then ba has different meanings. Ba can stand for bandha, which means bondage. You remain bound to this material world by fruitive activity, Or it can mean vyartata, means futility. You just work and to try to work off the debt, but you can never do it. And then the last two are very cogent. Bha stands for bhaya, which is fear, and M stands for, what can you guess? Mrityu, death. So these are like 5 things that in every conditioned soul, not even just in human beings, have to go through. But this is upavarga. This is the path of liberation from these things. Upavarga vartmani, vart means the path. And what happens? Here's the pratyakshavagaman. The direct perception is these things are nourished. Shraddha, faith in the process, because you're experiencing more and more of the benefits as you do it. Shraddha, rati, attraction to Krishna, and bhakti, which ultimately means pure love for Krishna. Step by step, anukramishati. So all from the process of getting together, glorifying Krishna. And what is the quintessence of that process? Sankirtan, hearing the holy name and chanting the holy name. I chant, you hear; you chant, I hear. You see, this is satam prasanga. So that is what Krishna is giving here, and this is the most confidential knowledge, is that it's all very accessible to us. Now the opposite of that, sorry I'm getting a little far afield, but is this madness of trying to maximize your material pleasure, which is always slipping through your hands and turning into just the opposite. Just like it's very common today. In my whole life, I swear, even Krishna behind the curtain, he can hear me also, is that I've had a blessed life. I've never been in debt. Maybe I'm an older friend, $5 or something, but I haven't. And even though I have a card that could be a credit card, but I just use it as a debit card. I don't need to go into debt and buy something that I don't have to pay off, But so much debt. The whole country is in debt. The $33 trillion in debt. Did you know that? That's the national debt. It's like a disaster because they can't pay it off and it can cause collapse. So what does that mean? It means that our desires exceed our ability to pay for it. This is material life. You read chapter 3. We read it already. Arjuna asks, what is it? What is it that forces one to act in such a way against his own interests? Even though we know it's bad, it's like the addict, I know I got to give up the cigarettes. Maybe tomorrow I can try it, So the intelligence to tell you one thing, you're reading it on the package. I remember when they put that on there back in the early 60s, hello, warning, that cigarette smoking is dangerous to your health. All right, the heck with it. No, all right, just one more, That's that's all. It's all like that. So Rishabdevi analyzes it like that. So nuna pramatta kudate vikarma yadindriya pritaya apranoti nasarumanye yata atmanoyam asannapi kleshada asadeha. He says nuna means certainly. Certainly they are mad, and not just mad. Here's this prefix pra again. Matta is mad. Pramatta is totally maniacal. No sense. Kudate vikarma. Those who, for the sake of indriya priti, which is exactly translated as sense gratification, perform vikarma. Now vikarma is very dangerous. There's akarma, karma, and vikarma. Krishna says in the 4th chapter we should understand what all these are. So, karma, in this context, is fruit of activity that's still within the Vedic paradigm. The Vedas are vast. There's a whole section of it called karma kanda, where you perform all kinds of sacrifices and pious activities, and you can go to heaven, or you can at least get a better birth. But it's still material. You're still tied up with birth, old age, disease, and death. It's not very smart. But this is vikarma, means sinful activity for the sake of sense gratification. So that produces so much more suffering. So it says, Nunam pramakta kurate vikarma yadindriya pritya apranotis, just for the sake of indriya priti, sense gratification. Why is it mad? It says, nasarumanye nunam pamatta kurate vikarma yadindriya pita yapinopri nasarumanye yata atmaroyam asanapi kleshada asadeha. Because you're sure to get another material body, which is sure to bring you all kind of suffering. So ultimately, it's just self-defeating. It's a huge con. Maya's business is to make you think that you can enjoy here, when actually you just stay in her clutches, and ultimately that enjoyment turns, sense gratification, a little bit of pleasure is undoubtable, fleeting pleasure, for a whole lot of misery. The comparison between the fleeting pleasure, we're just studying Prahlad's prayers, and he calls it's just like a mirage, mrigatrishni, that which the deer thirsts after, in the desert. Mriga is a deer or any animal, You get it and then it's gone. It's not there anymore. Just like, there's a nice pool of water in the desert, you go out there, it's not there anymore. So anyway, Rishabdev is saying it's mad to do that. So the next verse is very, very revealing. There's this 3-verse lesson I'll give you. It's 2 more verses. So then he says, now you're not going to learn Sanskrit in the next 5 minutes, but this is one pair. You can keep your ears open. Yavat tavat. Yavat tavat means either unless you do this, you won't get this, or it often means as long as you keep doing this, you won't get that, like that, yavata. So in this one verse, there's 2 pairs of those. Listen for them. Sometimes the tavat comes first. Padava vas tavad, abodha jato, yavan, najigyasata atma tattvam. Yavat kriyas, tavadidam manovai karmatmakam mina sharira bandha. Now this is a key verse. It's related to, it has an echo of the Vedanta Sutra at the beginning of the Vedanta Sutra, which is the tato brahma jigyasa. Remember that word. So he says, parabhavas tavat abodha gyato, yavana jigyasa atma tattvam. So parabhavas means defeat. Defeat in this context means another birth, another death. You're still in the cycle. You're not getting liberation. Parabhavas tavat abodha jato, it's born of ignorance, this defeat. You don't know how to act in order to reduce your attachments into this world and to become attached to Krishna. Abodha jato, yavan, as long as you do not inquire, najigyasa atma tattvam. First aphorism of the Vedanta Sutra, this one we can memorize, it's only like 5 syllables. Atato brahma jigyasa. That's it. Everything starts with that. Now then, now therefore, atato brahma jigyasa, one should inquire into Brahman, the absolute truth. And then the next sutra said, what is that absolute truth? Janma yasya yataha. Now those who know the Bhagavatam begins with those syllables. The Bhagavatam is said to be the ultimate commentary on the Brahma Sutra, or the Vedanta Sutra. That's why Lord Chaitanya, he was the greatest scholar. He could have written one himself. He didn't bother because we already had the Bhagavatam. Eventually, for one reason, Baladev Vidyabhushan did write a commentary on Vedanta Sutra based on Bhagavatam. So the point is, where are you going to place your attention? What are you going to inquire about? Being inquisitive is part of being a human being. But you can be inquisitive about so many things that just keep you entangled in this world. What's the price of my stock today? Right? People stay up all night who are into that because there's always some stock market open in the world. You go nuts. Oh, I better drop this one, buy that one. So you're completely entangled. But this is Atma Tattvam. Be inquisitive into the truth of the self. Who am I really? Sanatana Goswami, he was so learned. He came to Lord Chaitanya, surrendered, he's his guru, and said, Ke ami kene amai jare tapatrai. This is the question. Who am I and why am I suffering the 3-fold miseries in this world? That's the question that every human being has to ask. Otherwise, your inquisitiveness for whatever it is you're looking for is just going to keep you tangled up in here. So he continues, Yavat, so parabhavas tavad abodha jato yavana jigyasa atma tattvam. It's very logical. You will always continually experience this defeat of birth, old age, disease, and death, around and around, samsara chakra, which is based on ignorance, as long as you don't inquire into the real knowledge of the self. How are you going to get the knowledge if you don't inquire? And you have to have the right source to inquire from. So what's the result of not inquiring? Yavat kriyas. As long as you are performing these karmic activities, these fruitive activities. In this case, it's called the kriya and karma. Yavat kriyas tav idam mano vai karmatmakam. That will mean your mind is karmatmakam, filled with all of these unfulfilled desires. You know, as we live, and finally when we die, we still have those unfulfilled desires. You see? And that brings us back again into another body. You see, it's very logical. So until we inquire into that knowledge which can loosen those knots to this world and make us attached to Brahman, the Supreme Brahman, Krishna, then we're going to stay bound up. Last verse. Now here, Rishabdev talks about himself. He reveals himself as Vasudev. He's an incarnation of Krishna, actually. So he says, Evam manak. Thus, one's mind, if it's karmatmakam, filled with ordinary materialistic mind. Evam manak karma vasham, impelled by karma, by fruit of desire. Prayunkte avidyatman, covered by ignorance. Avidyatman ubadiyamani. We'll continue. So then here's the key phrase. This is the lesson, the whole thing. Pritir nayavan maiva. Here's yavatavat again. Pritir nayavan mahi vasudevi namuchate dehi yogena tavat. The whole lesson is right there in those two lines. Until one gets love for me, Vasudev, Krishna, Pritir nayavan mahi vasudevi namuchate, no liberation. Namuchate dehi yogena tavat. No liberation from the bondage to a material body. So, if we want liberation, we should practice Krishna consciousness. And the wonderful thing is that as you practice, gradually you're not aspiring for liberation anymore because you feel liberated. You're rather aspiring for pure love for Krishna, which concludes liberation in it. But the motivation to start you, and that's why it's there in the Bhagavad Gita, it's there in the Bhagavatam, is that we should basically want to end this cycle of birth and death. Because anything we aspire to do in the material world that's not related to that is simply doomed to pass away. In other words, our youth will certainly pass away, our health will pass away, our relationships, our money will pass away, because we'll leave it. But what doesn't pass is any assets you have in Krishna consciousness. That's eternity. Krishna promises. Thank you for coming. We'll have darshan in about 18 minutes. But meanwhile, if you like, you can sit and have Bhagavad Gita class. Yeah, you can sit on the bench there, that's best, because this is actually the men's side. But don't worry about it. If you want, you can stay there. But just take a book. We have that book. And if you need another one, we can supply. Is there? Okay. Anyway, you can sit on the chair. All right, so where were we here? We're in the middle of this purport. Where did we stop? We didn't do the word dharmyam, right? I think that's the next line in the verse. Pratyakshavagamam dharmyam. Okay. So the idea that it's the king of knowledge, the most confidential, very pure and purifying. So this is the knowledge. This is what we should be inquiring into. You know, the knowledge that Krishna is going to give us in this chapter and throughout the Bhagavad Gita. And association with the sages. This story of Narada is so great. You know, he was just an ordinary boy in a pious mother. His mother was a maidservant, so there was no husband there, you know. So in India, traditionally, the great sages, they'd wander. They'd keep traveling and preaching, you know. But during the rainy season, you can't move. So they'd have to settle up in one place. So this was a pious lady, so they stayed in her abode, and you know, she was feeding them and taking care of, doing the laundry. And little Narada was there. He wasn't Narada yet, but he took the advantage of listening and serving them. You know, do the laundry and everything, wash the dishes. And once he asked, "Can I take some prasad?" He said, "Yes." And so he took, and that's so purifying. You know, we always said this is Maha Prasad. You know, when the Prabhupada would eat, he'd get his plate. The devotees would grab, you know, whatever they can find on that plate, because it's Maha Prasad, very purifying. So that was, and then the next birth, he became Narada Muni. So it's such a wonderful story. All right, we're going to continue reading. We're in near the 2/3 of the way through page 378. The word dharmyam means the path of religion. Narada was actually a son of a maidservant. He had no opportunity to go to school. He was simply assisting his mother, and fortunately his mother rendered some service to the devotees. The child Narada also got the opportunity, and simply by association achieved the highest goal of all religion. The highest goal of all religion is devotional service, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam. Savai pungsang podo dharmo yato bhaktir adhokshaje. Religious people generally do not know the highest perfection of religion. What that line means, that the supreme dharma is that which engenders bhakti to adhokshaja. Adhokshaja is the name for Krishna. It simply means he who is completely transcendental, that we cannot perceive. We're near the bottom of page 378. Religious people generally do not know that the highest perfection of religion is the attainment of devotional service. As we have already discussed in regard to the last verse of chapter 8, Vedeshu Yaggeshu Tapaksachaiva, generally Vedic knowledge is required for self-realization. But here, although Narada never went to the school of the spiritual master and was not educated in the Vedic principles, he acquired the highest results of Vedic study. This process is so potent that even without performing the religious process regularly, one can be raised to the highest perfection. How is this possible? This is also confirmed, or it is confirmed in the Vedic literature, Acharyavan Purusho Veda. One who is in association with great acharyas, even if he is not educated or has never studied the Vedas, can become familiar with all the knowledge necessary for realization. So, the definition of acharya. The word acharya comes from the word achar, which means behavior or activity. So the acharya is someone who knows the tenets of the Shastra very thoroughly, lives by them, and teaches others also. He gives by his own example. Srila Prabhupada was a perfect acharya. He did what he was telling us to do. He was always up early. He got up in the middle of the night to write his books, what to speak of Mangalarti. But he was chanting, and he was following the principles, and he was doing exactly what he asked us to do. And he was realized. And so just by his association and by serving his mission, you also got purified, just like Narada. You know? And that's still going on today. When we open this book and we read this purport, we're doing service to Prabhupada. The most important service, which is to hear from him. So that's the potency of these books. And that's why to this very day, book distribution is a central activity of Krishna consciousness. So, this is from the second chapter of the first canto, this line, very famous. Religious people generally do not know that the highest perfection of religion is the attainment of devotional service. As we have already discussed in regard to the last verse of chapter 8, Vedeshu Yaggeshu. But here, although Narada never went to the school of the spiritual master, was not educated in Vedic principles, he acquired the highest results of Vedic study. This process is so potent that even without performing the religious process regularly, one can be raised to the highest perfection. How is this possible? This is confirmed in the Vedic literature, Acharyavan Purusho Veda. One who is in association with great acharyas, even if he is not educated or has never studied the Vedas, can become familiar with all the knowledge necessary for realization. So I'm going to go on and see if we can finish this purport. The process of devotional service is very happy one. So now he's going to the second line, su-sukham. Su-sukham. Why? Devotional service consists of shravanam kirtanam Vishnu. So one can simply hear the chanting of the glories of the Lord, or can attend philosophical lectures on transcendental knowledge given by authorized acharyas. Simply by sitting, one can learn. Then one can eat the remnants of the food offered to God, nice palatable dishes. In every state, devotional service is joyful. One can execute devotional service even in the most poverty-stricken condition. The Lord says, Pattam pushmam palam toyam. He's ready to accept from the devotee any kind of offering, even, never mind, even a leaf, a flower, a bit of fruit, or a little water, which are all available in every part of the world, can be offered by any person, regardless of social position, and will be accepted if offered with love. There are many instances in history. Simply by tasting the tulsi leaves offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, great sages like Sanat Kumara became great devotees. Therefore, the devotional process is very nice, and it can be executed in a happy mood. God accepts only the love with which things are offered to Him. Now, we should remember that this purport was written at a very early stage of the movement. Prabhupada was writing his Bhagavad Gita in 26 Second Avenue and dictating this chapter. I don't know the actual chronology, but it was very early on. And so there weren't any vast temples and, you know, elaborate worship. There's certainly no Rath Yatras or anything like that. And yet it's still su-sukham. So, but just think a minute. Just a few days ago, last Saturday, we had this festival. I assume some of you were able to come. Pushpa Abhishek, which is now a tradition here. The first one was for, I think, the 45th anniversary of the installation of the deities, you know. And I remember, it was the first one we had. I was in the back there and I was watching all these flower petals and the pujaris were throwing them out, and everyone was having just a wonderful time. And Krishna was having a wonderful time. You know, this is what he wants. He was celebrating Krishna, you know. So what's not to like, you know? You're having a great time, and at the same time, you're advancing because all the things you're not doing and thinking about, right, that you could be doing on Saturday night, right? And it's just so wholesome. And that's now, you know, exponentially increased with the Rath Yatras in all parts of the world, and every day really a festival. You know, you come in Mangalarti, get enough devotees in chanting on the street. You can make your own festival. You know, so it's joyfully performed. Su-sukham kartam abhyayam. And that's a big part of the reason why it's continuing to spread, you know, in around the world. Because if you really get into it and you chant, see, the thing is, this chanting is really the source of all the happiness, because you're really in touch with Krishna, and Krishna is always in the eternal festival in the spiritual world. You know, when you realize, well, he's God, so why would there be the slightest tinge of negativity, you know, in where he lives? You know what I mean? He's in control. And the wonderful thing is, he's getting his pleasure, you know, not from sense gratification, but by loving exchange. The whole thing is just, it's like the happiness that a mother feels when she takes care of the child, and the child feels protected and happy. And I always like to give the example of that little smile, no teeth yet, you know, the kid is smiling, you know, sitting in the lap of the mother. What is the mother? There's no exchange there. The mother's happy because the child is happy, you see? And that's the perfection of religion. We're happy because Krishna is happy, and we can participate in that happiness. We're part and parcel of Krishna. We have to remember that, you know, that if we can get free of all of the dross that we have that's standing in the middle, which is what it's all purification, then just glorifying Krishna. I'll tell you, you know, I'll just end on this, you know, because it's getting late. I'll give you a verse. I don't have a poem for it yet, but then I'll give you another poem. But this is such a simple verse from the Govinda Lilamrita, the nectar of Govinda's pastimes, written by Krishnadas Kaviraj when he was a young man, when he first came to Vrindavan. And because of that, he became Kaviraj, the king of poets. So here's this one verse meditating on Krishna coming back from the forest with his cows, which is a daily festival for the gopis and for Mother Yashoda. They're looking, they get to the top of the house. Is that there's some dust cloud there? Maybe that's Krishna with his. Do you hear it? I think I hear the flute. You know, and they're just getting, oh, he's coming. So here's a verse like that, and describing and just listen to the Sanskrit poetry. You don't even have to know Sanskrit. Dena vrindamanamandamayandam, Venu gitamamatam visajantam, Renu dushitachalakabantam, Kenu bhiksha samayo namodantam. And there's thousands of verses like this in the Govinda Lilamrita. So he says, Denu is the cows. Vrinda means the herds. Denu vrindamanamandamayandam. So Krishna's got big herd of cows, and he's following very leisurely behind them as they come back to the village. And what's he doing? He's playing the flute, of course. Venu gitam amritam visrajantam. He's playing that flute and creating the most delightful song, nectar song. Venu gitam amritam visrajantam. And what else is going on? These thousands of cows are walking on the path, and this dust cloud is coming, the transcendental dust of Vrindavan. This is Braj Raj. You know, Braj means Vrindavan, and Raja means dust, Braj Raj. It's very sacred, very holy. So all of that dust is coming, and it's powdering his beautiful curly hair as he walks gradually, you know. So there's the image. Renu is dust. So you got Denu, Venu, and Renu. See? Denu vindamanamandayantam, Venu gitam amatam visvajantam, Renu dushitatalakabantam, Kenu viksha samayor namodantam. Who, seeing this wonderful sight of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you know, coming in his most the original delightful form as Krishna, back to the village in the forest with the cows, who indeed, seeing this sight, would not attain the highest happiness. Now the wonderful thing is that just by chanting that, just like any other thing, I mean, how many novels did I read as a kid, you know, and a skilled novelist like Dickens create a whole image there in your mind, you're actually there, you know. And I remember I read one, this Little Nell, you know, some girl in 1870s in England or something. And finally at the end, I think she died, and I was crying. I was just, you know, just by words, you're right, you can experience. So what to speak of these words, these transcendental words. So you're seeing in your mind's eye, it says, who's seeing this would not attain the highest happiness. So if you can chant it nicely and think and hear and visualize, you're seeing it. And you automatically become happy just by the sound vibration. You know, it doesn't cost anything. You know, so the point is that that's joyfully performed. And Srila Prabhupada showed us, you know, with the festivals and the kirtan and everything else, the plays, the art, all of the art that he had and music, that it's a very joyful process, and it purifies the heart, and you get closer to Krishna. So it is late, and so I have time for one little poem. My effort, I didn't put this one into a poetry yet, but so this is okay. The meditation on Krishna entering the forest. This was coming back from the forest, so this is entering the forest, and we have an English poem. So I'll chant it quickly because it's getting late. Barha pidam natabadavapu karniyo karnikaram. Bimrud vasak kanaka kapisham vajayanting chamalam. Randran veno adadasudiya puriyan gopa vrindaya. Vrindaran yan swapadanamanam pravishad gita kirti. With lovely peacock plume upon his head, and fragrant flower placed upon each ear, he enters Braja's woods with graceful tread, a handsome dancing actor without peer. His golden yellow raiment brightly glows, his splendid garland reaches to his knees, and from his luscious lips the nectar flows, and fills his flute with transcendental melodies. As Krishna thus begins his blissful day, with cowherd friends who sing his glory sweet, he beautifies Vrindavan's forest way with fine impressions of his lotus feet. So that's a little meditation. If you want more, you just write to me at dravida108@gmail, and I'll send you my little booklet of all my poems in PDF form. Totally free. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
You made a binder.
Huh?
You made a binder of all your poems.
You did?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I see it. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Okay. So we're making some progress on this long purport, and then we'll finish it Monday. But we have to move because it's late.